How difficult is it to understand President Trump's next move or his administration's next move, given we're looking at midterm elections, right? So they just want to make sure that also their base is there supporting them.
Yeah, I think it's virtually impossible. The overall strategy, as far as I can tell, is the US, or the Trump administration specifically, is not happy with the way the global order is at the moment, and it's building points of leverage so that it can organize the global players, the EU, China, as and when it wants. My guess is something happened in the last week that Mr. Trump wasn't happy with. I have a hunch that, do you remember back, US diplomats were saying that China would seek to reduce the export difference by 200 billion, and then a Chinese diplomat said a couple of days, oh, we don't recognize that comment, and then 2 days later you have the threat of car imports. So Trump is kind of a crazy guy in negotiations. If he doesn't like the way things are going, let's ratchet up.
But he could get a good deal then on the back of it, right? Or I mean, has he? You could argue that in North Korea he got a good deal, that actually by playing, you know, the madman or whatever you want to call it, people think, oh, I better give something back because otherwise I'll be on his bad side.
Oh, the US is a very strong partner in all of this. Both Europe and China, you could argue, are much more exposed to global trade flows than the US is, because it has its big internal market. So this is the point of leverage. Washington as a whole is pro-free trade. It's hard to see whether Trump is or not. I think Trump would need to see pretty big concessions before he would remove these points of leverage over the EU.
The interesting thing is that, so I asked the question a moment ago about national security and autos. For the Germans, autos are national security. This is serious stuff. Does Germany end up getting caught in the middle and pretty much everything here? This doesn't feel great for the German economy right now. Frau Merkel is in China today. Yep. I think she's probably worried about the fact that the US and China are talking and Germany's getting left out. Now we've got this auto story. You've got the steel story there. There are plenty of things that must be upsetting and worrying Germany right now.
Germany's the biggest economy in Europe. 40% of its GDP, slightly more, is earned through exports. A major part of that is autos. When it comes to their national security threat, it's probably that Mr. Trump knows that's the way the president can introduce some tariffs and circumvent some hurdles in Washington. And also, it creates a problem with the WTO. The WTO cannot prevent a country from introducing tariffs and barriers to trade that are in favour of its national security interest. Now, if the EU or China raise through the WTO this question of whether or not it is in the US's national security interest, then the WTO then has to decide whether it knows better than the US administration what is in the US's national security interest. So this creates a very, very sticky, muddy situation.